Welcome to the Lavish Leader, Unveiling Wisdom, a podcast by the Lavish Group. We are a community of powerful leaders and creators. Each one of us is on a different path and from a different background, but we all embody aspects of what it means to truly live a lavish life. And we are here to share our stories. I'm your host, Dr. Erin Martin. Welcome, everyone. I'm your host, Dr. Erin Martin, and this is the Lavish Leader podcast. Today, we are talking about embracing vulnerability, self-reflection, and getting to the truth. Why is this such an important topic? Vulnerability is almost a cliche topic nowadays. Everyone's talking about needing to be vulnerable. And I think that we can put a different lens on that and understand what it means. It's hard as a leader to be vulnerable. It's hard for some of us just before we were even leaders to be vulnerable because of the things we've been through in the past. It's hard to let our guard down. For a lot of people, being vulnerable is considered a weakness. We have that belief. And the reason that I really want to talk about this is that with the first probably 4 or 5 interviews that I did for this podcast with amazing people, I realized that vulnerability and self-reflection were 2 things that every single one of them said or talked about as a place they came to in that moment or those moments that led them to begin to have a transformation or to make shifts in their life, to make bigger decisions for something greater for themselves. And the importance of vulnerability and self-reflection in personal growth and healing is also probably paramount, really. And when we can really shift the perspective on what healing really is, then we can get somewhere. Because so many people will say that they are on a healing journey or that they have been on a healing journey for the last 25 years. Well, I just speak real here. But if we think about it that way, then all of life is a healing journey. Like, that's just how it is. But if we understand healing in the way that I have come to look at it, and this was not my idea. This was something that I learned through my mentors, my education, not as a doctor, but when I began seeking to learn more about spirituality, when I was studying spiritual psychology and this understanding of consciousness, is that healing, what healing really is, and saying this as a career physician who has worked in the medical field since I was in high school, actually. This kind of blew my mind. And at the same time, it made perfect sense. So here it is. Healing is simply the revealing of truth. Healing is simply the revealing of truth. So I'm going to get to exactly what that means. And for some people, that might make total sense. And for other people, you're like, what are you saying? As human beings, we are meaning makers. We make story and meaning out of everything. And that's how we're designed. That's how our brains and our nervous system is designed to make sense out of the world, to keep us safe. It is a survival mechanism. But when we have negative experiences or trauma, we become programmed, not just conditioned, but also programmed into having beliefs about certain things that come from those stories and that meaning that we've made from those specific experiences. Whether that was a physical experience, it was something that somebody said to you, it was something that you witnessed, any of those things, those become our beliefs, right? Those experiences, those stories, they become beliefs. And those beliefs then become what we run our lives from. From that place, from those beliefs, we begin to run our lives based off of those things. Whether they're true or not, that's our perception. That's why they say perception is 99% of reality. But we have to remember that just because we believe something or we have a story about something, or to us, that's the meaning, that doesn't actually mean that it is true. And we can say, well, that's my truth and that's true for me. And there's a big difference between relative truth, which is the truth that we might see for ourselves. Oh, that's true for me, versus what I call capital T truth, which is absolute truth, which is what's actually true. So when we run our lives from that place, from those beliefs, from that programming, that's actually living from what is called second cause creation. As we're all creators, we're all creating something 24/7. We're making stuff, we're doing things, we're making things, we're creating things. Second cause creation is creating from an effect, not as the cause. That's what we call first cause creation. And when we talk about the kind of universal law of cause and effect, this is an important thing to kind of think about. If we live our lives as the effect of life, things are happening to us, rather than as the cause of our life, as the creator of our life. And some of us do this in some areas of our lives and not others. As leaders in your career, you may be a super manifester, hard ass, get it done. There's nothing that you set your mind to that you cannot accomplish. And in your personal life, with your marriage or your kids or your parents or whatever it is, you may be completely living as the effect. You can call this victim mentality, right? It's happening to you, not from you, not through you, not as you, right? This is almost like this spectrum of understanding and consciousness that we all go through. And when we are living as that second cause, as the effect, things are going to seem unfulfilling. This is where burnout happens. This is where we live in a life of taking offense, and nothing seems to change because it's all almost by chance happening to us and we don't know why. And it doesn't have to be that way. What's interesting is that when our lives come to a crossroads or some place of transition, and because most of the women that I work with as a mentor, as a guide, or as a coach are all women who are at some sort of transition, whether it's in their career, it's with relationship or a marriage, it could be with their health, whatever it is. What I found is that these periods of our lives, these crossroads, these transitions, they always seem to bring us face to face with these insights about ourselves and we have the opportunity to do one of two things in these situations. And that is we can go deeper, we can see what's there for us, we can expand, we can evolve, or number two, we can ignore it and we get to go around that mountain again. And we've all been there, right? We've all been like, wait a minute, I've already done this before. And we get to the place where we are no longer willing to take another trip around the sun, doing the same thing, feeling the same way. And so, where is this for you right now? There is a place of self-reflection, and self-reflection can be where we're asking ourselves, we're inquiring during meditation, we're journaling, we're trying to figure it out on ourselves. It can be that we're asking others who we trust, people who really know us, to be a reflection back to us of what they're seeing or what they have noticed of us. But regardless of where that is for you, in this place, vulnerability is essential. And that can be hard because most of us have built an entire life and an entire identity around these beliefs that we have. They are our life, our truth. And when we get to the place, though, where it's like we're still living life by that, when there's something inside of us, whether you can say it was my heart, it's my spirit, it's my intuition, it's my gut, whatever it is that is like, this is no longer true for me, or something has shifted. I don't think that way anymore. Then that vulnerability is what allows us to act on that new insight, that new wisdom, that new knowledge for ourselves. So we can go deeper, and going deeper means you go back to the facts. Before the story or any meaning, you go inward. It may mean feeling into where you may be storing it in your body, because we all know that the body keeps the score of past negative experiences, traumas, things that are undealt with. Where is this showing up in your life over and over again? I guarantee you that whatever it is not affecting just one area of your life. But you go back to that place, you find that place where you're making those decisions from. And that is where the truth is. The truth is here. Understanding what that truth is, whether it is a fear, for most people, it's a fear of something, where those beliefs came from, that moment that a decision was made during a negative experience or a trauma or failure. At some moment, you told yourself something and a meaning was made, story was made, and a belief was birthed. But when you can understand this from this place, wow, awareness is transformative. Because when you understand this from this place and you're like, oh, I finally see why I have been acting this way or doing this or thinking this or being this way for all of these years, that opens you up to what we would call healing from that. And it's not just emotional, mental things. Our mind and our emotions create physiology. They tell our body what to do. So it can be physical healing as well. And when you're opened up to this true healing, it's something that can happen relatively quickly. They say there's no such thing as an overnight success. And this is true for this as well. It's like, oh, in one moment you can have an insight, but it took you 20 years to get to that one moment where you could have that insight. So as much as I love talk therapy, and I've been to much of it myself, this isn't always something that you can talk your way through. This requires a vulnerability and a self-reflection that accepts the truth, that no longer resists what is or what was because it doesn't want it to be true, because it doesn't want to feel those feelings that need to be felt. This is a vulnerability that says, I, as a being, can no longer support the inauthentic way I have been living and thinking. And something inside of me tells me that it's time to move beyond this. It's time to have a deeper understanding, and it's time for something else. And I know right now that this is what is holding me back from whatever is next. And I'm willing to go there. So many people, whew, it's one of those things you got to do it. It's the way that we love. It's the way that we love ourselves with a capital S. So this is a process that never ends, right? It's like an onion that are continually peeling. But what I think is fundamental to understanding first, and this isn't something that you can just take my word for, believe me, I wasn't able to take anybody's word for it either. It had to be something that sunk in and into my soul, and it was soaked up and somehow got transformed into a deeper knowing. And that's this, that we first have to understand that you were never broken to begin with. The greatest truth is that each of us is perfect, complete, and whole. That's how we came into this world. That's how we live in this world. And that is how we will leave this world. That's how we will always be. Now, I know that that is contrary to the way that most of us were brought up to believe. In my own conservative Christian upbringing, I was taught that we are all born sinners, that we have to serve a God who is essentially unpleasable, that we have to continuously ask for forgiveness, that we are imperfect, that we will always be imperfect, and that we have to beg to be forgiven and to be allowed to have the good things in life and the good things beyond this life. Now, I know that a lot of us in our Judeo-Christian culture have some form of belief similar to that. whether or not you were brought up religiously or not, because it is ingrained in our culture. We are unworthy and we have got to hustle our asses off to have any chance of being worthy. So when we can first understand that we were never broken to begin with, wow, that's a whole new place to start healing from, don't you think? All right. I know that there is no greater or more noble thing you can do with your life than to know yourself. It's not serving your husband. It's not serving your clients. It's not serving your children, even. We all have other things that we need to do, we have to do, we love to do. And this identity of our highest self is the greatest thing that we can invest our time, our energy, our money, our whatever it is into understanding more. And life shifts then from being on a healing journey to being on a journey of discovery of truth, for that unfoldment of self, to discover the things about you that you never even thought of. Not even just that you didn't know, right? When we understand these things about ourselves, and giving you a little tickle here, little itch for you to ponder, for you to scratch, planting a little seed here. But your identity is no longer finite from this place of understanding that you were never broken to begin with, that you were perfect, complete, and whole, that healing is simply the revealing of truth. When what you believe to be true is unveiled to be just a belief, and that beliefs can change, everything suddenly gets bigger. When what used to be a blind spot is suddenly fully visible, your whole world expands. When what you didn't even know was there opens up, and it's like finding a secret room in your house that you've lived in your entire life, and you didn't even know that that room was there, but it was there all along. It's pretty amazing. So from this place, in this community, as lavish leaders, we understand that vulnerability is not a weakness. It's just being real. It's just how we get real. For me, and maybe like many of you, I don't have time or even the patience for superficialities. I don't enjoy going to cocktail parties where everybody's just doing superficial chit chat. I would so much rather have an intimate dinner with 3 or 4 people and talk some really, really deep, meaningful stuff. For me, I'm like, let's get right to it. Let's go deep and get to the goods. That might come off as a little bit intense, but my time is valuable. My life is full, and that's what I'm here for. I'm here to have meaningful relationships, to have meaningful conversations, to have my time mean something. So maybe for you, that means seeking guidance or help from the other trusted people, the people that have earned the right to be in your life for those vulnerable moments, for those vulnerable things. It may be just being real or honest with yourself and listening to what you've always known or what you've known for a long time. That still small voice that has come back over and over again to tell you it's time to move on. It's time to speak up. It's time to let go, whatever that might be. Until you do, you take that action, until you listen in, until you go deeper, you will remain in the distance of your own life. For those of us who are here and we're trying to live on that edge that we're constantly creating, we're visionaries. Do you realize that you may be doing all of that from a distance in your own life? And I know that for some of you that are hearing this right now, you're feeling like, oh my gosh, she just stabbed me in the heart. You're hearing it. You're feeling it. It's time to pay attention. This pussyfooting, the ignoring the elephant in the room, the living from the superficial periphery instead of creating from your sharpest edge. Let's move on from that. It's time. This is the challenge. This is the call. This is the invitation for you today. So what do you need to do now? What do you need to do now as you're listening to this? This is just the start of your process of self-reflection. Maybe I have struck a chord of resonance for you that is catalyzing something. Pay attention to that. Maybe it's that you need to get that therapist or coach you've been thinking about, or maybe you need to make that phone call. Maybe you need to end something. Maybe you need to start something. Maybe you need to say something out loud that you've never said before to someone who can help you or support you to do something with it. Accountability cannot be underestimated, especially when it comes from a person who has got your back, has got your best interest in mind, and knows you deeply. This is how you love yourself today. That's the first lavish principle. Love yourself. This is healing. This is truth. These are the words of wisdom for today. Until next time, live lavishly. The Lavish Leader, Unveiling Wisdom is brought to you by Dr. Erin Martin and the Lavish Group. To find out more about Dr. Erin and how you can create and embody a lavish life for yourself, visit thelavishgroup.com. And don't forget to search for Lavish Leader in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, or anywhere else podcasts are found. And click subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. On behalf of the team here at the Lavish Group, thanks for listening. And remember, you too can live a lavish life of fulfillment, beauty, and love.